Okay, so just a little bit more detail on what Postman means when he talks about how things have changed in terms of because of the new metaphor, as he puts it, the age of show business, the movement from print culture to television culture. Again, basically, in chapter 5, he talks about two major changes at the end of the 19th century that really changed things. And the first was the telegraph. Again, this made it possible to send massive amounts of information over great distances very quickly. So he puts it in the past, information could only travel as fast as people, which wasn't very fast. Even with the train, it was 35 miles an hour. With the telegraph, information could be sent instantly. Well, what kind of information was sent? As he says, they said, well, now it's possible for a man in Maine and a man in Texas to have a conversation with each other. Well, what do Maine and Texas actually have in common with each other? What do Maine and Oklahoma actually have in common with each other? If they're going to talk to each other, what are they actually going to talk about? Occasionally, maybe important major national issues, elections, whether or not to go to war. But there was the print media, the Federalist Papers, for instance, whether or not to ratify the Constitution. It's hard to imagine a more significant national issue than that. But that was information was circulated, arguments were circulated just fine using print well before there was a telegraph or a television or anything. So print was sort of adequate to these major issues. But once you move to the telegraph and all of this information, what mainly is being sent out? Not so much issues of major national import, but gossip, or else, of course, just sort of sensational stories about fires or earthquakes, or it's easy enough to watch cable news and to see how ridiculous the stories are, the runaway bride, etc. Things that are sort of sensational in some ways, but not really very meaningful, because again, what do people actually have to talk about from Maine to Texas if they don't know each other? If they're relatives, obviously they have things to talk about, but a total stranger from Maine and a total stranger from Texas, their daily lives really don't have much in common. Or Postman quotes that statement from Henry David Thoreau, who was sort of ridiculing the telegraph at the time, and he said, what's actually going to happen? We're going to have more information from Europe, but as he puts it, it may be that the first information that comes through to the great flapping American ear is that Princess Adelaide has the whooping cough. In other words, again, just sort of meaningless information that no one really knows, no one really cares about. It's not important. It doesn't really do anything, but it's just sort of information for information's sake. So as Postman puts it, the telegraph went from this world of print media, which was or print culture, print communication, which was serious, rational, orderly, trying to convey meaning, trying to convey arguments, to, as he puts it, basically the telegraph introduced a kind of discourse that was, as he puts it, it introduced on a large scale irrelevance, impotence, and incoherence. So a bunch of information that didn't mean anything, that's the irrelevance. It's not really relevant to anybody's life. Who cares if Princess Adelaide has the whooping cough? It creates impotence in the sense that you have all of this information, but you can't really do anything about it. Now, in a way, you could say, well, this is a silly criticism. I mean, at one point he asked, what are you going to do about to solve conflict in the Middle East? Well, the fact that you can't single-handedly or even in any kind of immediate way end conflict in the Middle East doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't know about it. So that seems in some ways like as if the only thing that you should know about is, the shopper's news, what's on special at the local grocery store or something. Obviously, there are things you can't necessarily do a lot about personally. It doesn't mean you shouldn't know anything about them. But he says irrelevance, things that aren't relevant to you, impotence, you can't do anything about them, and incoherence. Again, there's so much information that there is no real rational presentation of the information. You look at telegraph or information, or the information over television. There's no coherence. There's no attempt to bring it together into a coherent argument. Okay, so it's incoherent. It's irrelevant, has no real relevance to you. It creates impotence. You can't do anything about it, and it's incoherent. It doesn't actually, all of this information is there, but it's not ordered or organized in any kind of a rational thought or argument. Okay, so basically, and then the other major difference was the rise of photography. And he talks about three characteristics of photographs. First of all, he says photography presents us only with particulars, not with abstract ideals or universals. So in other words, you might see a picture of a person or a tree, but it can't present us with universal ideas or abstract ideas. We can't use photographs to discuss nature. We might see pictures of a lake or mountains or a tree, but we can't use photographs to actually talk about nature as an abstract concept. Now, again, you might say, well, is that totally true though? Because otherwise, these images that which he admits from the civil rights struggle, from Vietnam, these images were very powerful. Clearly, they were able to convey more than here's a guy getting attacked from by a dog, or here's a guy bleeding on a stretcher. I mean, but he would probably say, well, the context for that were words. You had to use words, and in particular rational arguments, the sort of things that are conveyed by print media, to actually give these things a meaningful context, so that you understood, here's a very vivid example of what's happening, but here's what's actually happening. We have to describe that using words, okay? Pictures by themselves don't tell you anything. All you see is a picture of a guy getting attacked by a dog, or a picture of someone who's been shot. What does that mean? You need words to actually give it context and meaning, okay? He also says photographs simply present the world as it is. They can't actually argue with that. They can't present alternative sort of ideas about how the world should be. They can't be used to criticize the world. A photograph shows you what's out there. It shows you what actually exists, but it doesn't show you how things could be better. It's simply a statement of this is how things are. And then the third, final, probably most important point, again, photographs don't have any context. Words and arguments require context to be understood. You have to know a statement, you have to know it's in context to understand what is actually being said. And as he puts it, it really makes no sense to say a photograph has or doesn't have context. Photographs, by definition, don't have any context. Again, a photograph is just a representation of a particular object. There's no context required for that. For the photograph to take on meaning, it kind of needs context maybe, but the context, again, has to be supplied by words. So photographs don't have context. And that way they kind of go along with a lot of that information, with all this new information that was being sort of spewed forth by the Telegraph, all of this information without any real context. There was no real context for this information. There was no idea of why you should care about Princess Adelaide's whooping cough, or even about, Michael Jackson's death, the sort of things that become such big news stories. There's just all this information. None of it really means anything. In that way, he says photographs kind of go along with that, because photographs don't have context, and yet they give all of this information a kind of deceptive sense of context and of meaning and of immediacy. And if it's not totally false, it's at least very superficial. So you hear about a fire somewhere that killed 10 people, and maybe you see a picture of the burning building or something, but what does that really mean? I mean, why is that relevant to you? What can you do about it? What kind of argument is being made? Is there an argument about why this fire happened, how to prevent fires in the future? By itself, information about a fire that killed 10 people and a picture of a burning building, or a picture of someone with soot on their face, it might be dramatic, it might be sensational, but it doesn't really tell you anything very meaningful. And it doesn't argue about the way that things should be different, what you should do, how things should be different, etc. Okay? So these three lectures have kind of explained the broad general points that Postman is making. Again, it's up to you then to, in the second part of the book, he basically applies these to specific examples, including politics. So that part is basically left up to you in the paper. So hopefully these lectures will help you understand some of the broader, the sort of broad points he's making, the sort of framework he's using, help you answer some of the early questions in the paper topic, and then that last question about how does this apply to politics, that's up to you. So again, hopefully this has been useful.